I'm sanding the side of this dresser cabinet, and there's an indentation. After all the sanding was done, there's an indentation from something impressing the wood, and if I were to try to sand this out, it would probably go through the veneer. And if I try to fill it in with something and we get any expansion contraction, it'll probably come loose in a few years. So I'll show you how you fix this. Okay. Take a white paper towel, fold it into four into quarters, and just lay it on top. Grab a hot iron. You can use a veneer iron, you can use a clothing iron, it really doesn't matter. And steam it. Okay? Now, the steam just swelled all that veneer back up. Then if you don't want to wait for it to dry by itself, just kind of lay the iron across without burning the wood. And the heat will dry it up so you can continue sanding. And it'll just disappear. That's perfectly, it's a little, actually it's a little raised right now. Completely done. And that was a pretty deep gouge. Now you notice I'm not just sanding where the gouge was. You sand in a big area, otherwise you'll create a depression in your veneer. So, okay. All right, now this side has been sanded, the face has all been sanded. And it's a very simple cabinet. We're going to route a chamfer on the edge here to just to make it softer a little bit. So I've got my bit already set up in the router. And of course I could be doing this from the face, but I have, since it's a 45-degree chamfer, it doesn't matter if I do it from the face or I do it from the side. And since it's already on its side, I might as well cut it before I flip it over to do the other side. So there's also, you know, cutting wood with a router is the same thing as milling steel in a milling machine. You have conventional milling and you have conventional routing, and then you have climb milling and climb routing. So if the work is on your left, and you're pushing the router away from you, that's conventional milling. If you're pulling the router towards you, that's climb routing. So some woods, you're better off climb routing on the first pass and then go back conventional to make sure that the profile is straight and true without, it won't tear out the wood. Last thing you want to do is go ahead and route a profile on something with the cutter turning clockwise, and then you find out that it caught the grain and tore out a huge chunk of your project. So this is poplar. And poplar routes pretty well, so, and my grain is running in the correct direction not to get caught. It's running this way. So I'm just going to do conventional routing and put the chamfer on it. Now I had some vibration and it's a little bumpy, so I'm just going to run it again. Nice and smooth now. Now I'm going to flip it over. I got to sand the other side, cut another chamfer on it. I've already got the tabletop, the dresser top is already made. I'm going to cut the same chamfer on those edges, and then I have to make the base, and then this cabinet work is done. The only thing left will be the drawer heads, the drawers, and okay, you probably all know what this is. Cabinet scraper, furniture scraper. There's plenty of videos on YouTube about how you burnish an edge on a scraper, and if I can always show you how I do it, but I keep them pretty sharp, and I always do both edges when I do it, so that I can flip it around and I don't have to wait and go and burnish it again. So I've got the frame has been glued onto the plywood, and before I sand it, I want to scrape the frame so it's dead true with the plywood. So this tip is that what you do is use the cabinet surface as your guide. Otherwise, if you're on an angle or whatever, you'll scrape one edge without getting down, and before you know it, the edge is no longer square. So keep most of the scraper on the cabinet side, but don't put any pressure on it. Put your thumb right over the work that you're trying to scrape. Keep the scraper flat. If you want, sometimes you bend the scraper, it works a little differently. In a case like this, you don't flex the scraper at all. So keep your thumb there, and you see, I don't know if you can see, I'm bringing up the shavings on the frame, but not on the veneer. Okay. Whenever you buy a sander, almost guaranteed it's going to come with a semi-hard base to it. Actually soft. They call them soft or semi-hard. And if you look, you'll see how much that bends, how spongy that is. When you're using one of these and you come to a corner or an edge, it actually deforms somewhat, and you could end up sanding right through a beautiful veneer project you're working on. Most manufacturers that make good sanders, this is a Festool, also sell different bases for them. This is a hard base. You'll notice that it doesn't bend nearly as much, and so it's flat. So if you come across it, if you come out to an edge, it's not going to press down and sand harder on one place than on another. So I suggest when you buy a sander, if the manufacturer sells a hard base, order it, put it on, and you'll see a world of difference in the way you sand a project. I'm about to put together the base, and I need 2 miters in the front, and I'll show you how I've done it for a long time. I use cyanoacrylate, and then I put a butt block behind it after I get the whole base built. But just before I buy it, but I buy it in these 4-packs of 2 ounces, and I put it in the freezer, and that's where I keep it stored until I have to take out another one. So let me show you how I do this. So I've lined up my 2 miters face to face. The face is up. I've used the straight edge to make sure that they're in good alignment. And then I take ordinary packing tape and I tape them together right over the joint. Flip it over. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to spray the accelerator on one side of the joint while I protect the other side of the joint with a piece of cardboard. Okay? Now I'm going to take the cyanoacrylate and put it on the side that I did not spray. I guess there's not much left in this tube. I'm going to have to go get another one. Oh, okay. I put a pretty good liberal amount. I don't let it touch the piece that I've put the accelerator on. Okay? Now, I take my square and I have it ready, and all I do is pick it up like a hinge, put my square into it, and hold it. Takes a few seconds for the accelerator to harden it up. And there we go. Still a little wet on the inside here because that didn't get any accelerator sprayed on it. But there you go. Perfect miter joint. It's already glued together. No clamps, no jigs, no nails, no screws, and it's perfectly square. Now I'm going to do the other side the same way. I got a progress report as we move on. The entire cabinet and the base are now made. They're actually ready for paint. All the supports for the draw hardware have been installed. All the draw heads have been made. It's not really a frame panel, an inset panel. It's just made to look that way. These are made out of medium density fiberboard, and they've been edge banded in maple to give it some strength on the edges, because fiberboard's not too strong on the edges. I don't want it to get bumped and then damage the face, so I've done that. And now we're ready to make some drawers. I have to make 9 drawers for this job, and I'm going to do it on this Omni jig. I started using this about, I don't know, 15 years ago, and replaced one that I made myself. I just had to do a little bit of modification to make it a little bit better, because this bottom locking cam was moving too much. Every time I closed it, it would move my board. So I installed some bushings that created much more rigidity in this, and it doesn't move it anymore. Should take me about a half an hour to cut the joints on 9 drawers. Everything is in sets now. I made my test cut. Came out just the way I want it, nice and tight. The material that I'm using is 1/2-inch Baltic birch. I happen to like that for drawers. It's 9-ply. It handles cutting a dovetail, oh, I'd say just about as good as a piece of solid lumber. And the drawers stay dimensionally stable. They never move. I used to make them out of solid lumber. I've made them out of maple. I've made them out of mahogany. And I found that I like this the best. So that's what I make them out of. Okay, I'll set the camera up and show you cutting the joints for one drawer. and then I'll cut the rest of them off camera.